So the question is, why did God not stop Adam and Eve? Yeah, and so the answer is going to go one of two ways, right? The first would be a free will answer, saying God gave free will to the men and women made in His image, and by empowering them with the ability to make decisions, which He clearly did by saying this one's forbidden, this you can have. That's the kind of thing you say to somebody who has the ability to violate that command, the ability to choose or whatnot. So they had a freedom to do. So the first answer would be they had freedom to do it. And so in giving them the freedom, God also was accepting responsibility for, not responsibility, but accepting the fact that that freedom could be abused and that they could disobey Him. The second one, which is much more of a Calvinistic answer, is that God knew they were going to sin. And so it was in some sense either dictated or known and allowed as part of the whole story that God was creating that ultimately was going to reach its resolution in the death of His Son and bringing us back to a full relationship with Him post-sin. And so, one, it's either a free will answer of Adam and Eve, or it's some kind of a thing that God was either aware of or was involved in the weaving of this story such that it didn't catch Him off guard, and even if He knew about it, He was going to allow it to happen because of His future plan with regard to the scarlet thread of redemption. I always think truth is in the messy middle, and so I kind of think that somewhere in all of those, there's elements of truth. And I think when we talk about God's ways being higher than our ways, I think the prophet meant it. So we can try and understand or frame our mind around things that Scripture doesn't talk about, but I think we're just hypothesizing a little bit. And C.S. Lewis, who didn't believe in Calvinism, did say something interesting about, hey, I think we're going to get to heaven and realize that a lot of what we took to be ourselves was actually God at work in or through us. And we're going to find out that behind all of this, really God was the one that was orchestrating things that we even believe to be of ourselves. So, even someone who didn't necessarily believe in a Calvinistic doctrine of salvation is still saying, hey, there's so much that can't be known that when we get to heaven and look at it in a different perspective or look back on it, we're going to understand it differently. So with regard to the question of Adam and Eve, I think you can triangulate it maybe a little bit with those three answers, but those are certainly the schools of thought. I'm not going to commit myself to any one of them wholesale, other than to say God, I think if He's omniscient, was aware, but obviously He didn't intervene, and so for whatever His reason was, He chose to allow that action to go and run its full course.